discovered that in getting to their own zones, they were actually minorities in their zones. Every community you go, you find a majority and a minority. When you go to the majority section, you will now find fresh minorities. When you go to other minority sections, you will find fresh minorities. And it keeps going. Like, for instance, in Bauchi, we came across an ethnic group that I think there are about less than 5 people that speaks the language. And they are an ethnic group. So, faced with, when we started in the south, we found quite a lot of ethnic minorities. By the time we got to another area in northeast, we had over 150 ethnic groups who were yearning to speak to us, even their mode of dress. And, it was shocking to many of us. And that made it quite difficult to say it should be an ethnic-based
civil rights societies, the trade unions, politicians from different political parties, the youth organizations, market men and women, technocrats and more. It was obvious that meticulous attention was paid to the choice of those who emerged as delegates from the different segments across the country, numbering 492 altogether by President Goodluck Jonathan, GCFR, will go down in the history of the political evolution of Nigeria, the largest democracy in Africa, as a day when a new chapter was written in our conscientious march to consolidate the gains of our hard-earned democracy. It was indeed Nigeria's hour of glory, and everyone basked gracefully in the joy of the great epoch. From the north, southwest, middle belt, south-south, the southeast, and indeed all state governors, members of the armed and paramilitary forces, as well as politicians, also witnessed the inauguration of the National Conference delegates. Pius Ayim traced the journey of the birth of the National Conference to the 9th of October last year, when President Jonathan set up the body that put in place the framework for the National Conference. He advised all the delegates to approach the proceedings with open mind and from the broader national perspective, rather than for parochial personal interests.
I am bold to say that the advice profiled by the committee, particularly the advice of the structure and modalities for the nominations of delegates to this conference, were not just a product of the committee's wisdom, but rather a product of the collective wisdom of well-meaning Nigerians offered to the committee during their nationwide town hall meetings. I'm proud to say that the chairman of the National Conference, my Lord, is here for the inauguration. Also present are the Deputy Chairman, Professor A. Olaji Akinyemi, CFR, the Secretary, Dr. Mrs. Valeria Janeta Zingil, and the 3 Assistant Secretaries, Dr. Akilu Sani Ndabawa for Conference Proceedings, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu for Finance and Admin, and Mr. James Abandon for Media and Communications. Your Excellency, I'm also proud to say that all the 492 delegates confirmed their nominations and are here for inauguration. It is therefore my honor and privilege. It is therefore my honor and privilege to present to you 6 conference officials and 492 delegates for inauguration, Mr. President.
The visionary of the National Conference idea, President Goodluck Jonathan, GCFR, who began his remarks by first congratulating the delegates for the special privilege they enjoy to be chosen among the larger Nigerian society, also charged them to see this as a clarion call from Nigeria to engage one another in very robust, frank and fruitful deliberations on how to build a new Nigeria where unity, oneness of purpose and love for one another prevails, as was envisioned by the founding fathers of Nigeria.
I also believe that this national conference is coming at a very appropriate time, having just celebrated the first centenary of our country, the most compelling task before us as we move ahead and contemplate what our nation will be at the end of its second century is to lay a much stronger foundation for faster development. This we can achieve by building a more inclusive national consensus on the structure and guiding principles of states that will guarantee our emergence as a more united, progressive, and prosperous nation. In our history as a political entity, we have experienced highs and lows. We cannot continue to fold our arms and assume that things will straighten themselves out in due course instead of taking practical steps to overcome it. For many years, we have discussed and argued over various issues concerning our national existence and well-being. Most of this national discourse has been conducted through the mass media, both print and electronic. More recently, the advent of the age of ICT and social media has greatly enlarged the space for the discussion of our country's future. Many more young and articulate Nigerians who previously had little access to the traditional mass media have now joined the conversation, motivated by patriotic concern for good governance, peace, stability, justice, equity, fairness, and
congratulate Mr. President for your initiative in sponsoring this national conference. It takes courage and vision to bring together this great and varied assembly of representatives of our people. We thank you, Mr. President, for honoring us with your presence in inaugurating the conference today. At this juncture, let me thank the delegates who have accepted that call for service to take part in this conference. The caliber and eminent status of the delegates attached to this enterprise. And so, on behalf of the President and on behalf of Nigerians, I thank the National Conference delegates for willingly wish to thank our distinguished invited guests who have honored us with their presence at this opening ceremony for another major step in the life of this nation. Thank you very much.
Before President Goodluck Jonathan left the National Judicial Institute, venue of the inauguration of the National Conference delegates, he took time out for a string of photo and video sessions with all the delegates and the various segments of those who attended the inauguration ceremony. To formally round off the inauguration activities, a dinner was organized for members. This also serves as an avenue to socialize